Two, one. All right, what's up, guys? I'm here with my man Zach. Zach, thanks for being here, brother. Dude,
Absolutely.
tell the people, give them the number. How much weight have you lost so far?
So I am at like 60 pounds plus of weight loss, like that since I've started.
Mm,
So it's huge, huge.
60 pounds, dude. That is absolutely insane.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
bro, what a journey it has been. Walk me through the process of like what you were struggling with before the first time we talked.
Mhm. Yeah. So before you and I talked, so this is back in January of 22 that you and I talked for the first time. So years before that, like I said, so when I was younger growing up, I was always the fat kid. I had the red face after 1 minute of running, whereas other kids, like they could run for 20, 30 minutes and be fine. Like I was the kid that coaches on sports teams were like, hey, are you okay? Like you haven't been out there very long, but are you fine? And it's that type of stuff. I was last picked on teams, whatever. So obviously that's something that's subconscious with you your entire life is you're always thinking about because when you get picked on in high school and everything that stays with you. So it's something you're always thinking about. As people are staring at me, people think I'm fat, people think I'm ugly, people think I'm a terrible human being, basically.
Mhm.
So with that being said, I tried to lose weight several different times. A job that I got had a gym actually in the building that they provided for free for employees,
Mhm.
and so I tried losing weight for a couple times, and I would stop going to the gym, and then I'd go back, and I would lose some weight, and then it would always come back, and then lose some more weight, and then it would always come back. And there was one time that I was doing pretty decent, but then I ended up breaking my foot playing basketball. And so when that happened, that put me on the couch for like 8 weeks after having surgery, getting a screw in my foot. And when I'm sitting on the couch, then I'm just kind of eating whatever I want to, and you're not walking, you're not getting up, and so you're literally not really burning any calories at all. I mean, you're burning some, but like not very much. So I just gained a lot of weight back, and so my total weight, I think my highest I got after that was like 272 or 274 or something like that.
Mhm.
And now I'm down to like 208. So it's huge difference. Um,
Yeah.
but so all of that happened, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting really sick of losing the weight or trying to, and then not knowing what's happening, like why I'm not being consistent or why I'm not seeing consistent results. So your profile actually popped up on Twitter for me
Mhm.
randomly. I don't know why. I don't know if I started liking some health stuff, and then they're like, hey, here's this awesome guy. Like, why don't you check out his profile?
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, whatever. So I clicked on it, and I think either you sent me a DM or I just decided to send you one because I was like, he says he can help people lose weight, so I'll give it a shot. Like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
I've already gained weight back before, so what's the worst that could happen? Um, so you actually had a call with me like in January of 2022, and we talked about like what some of my goals were and everything. And initially, I didn't have like the proper finances to like do the full Default Kings program, but
Mhm.
you were like, you know what, man, I like you. I still want to help you. So I'm gonna give you this rate and kind of work on you one on one. It's not the full Default Kings program, but I still want to help you because like that's my job. That's what I love to do. Uh, and so I appreciate that you took the time to do that, man. It meant a lot to me then. It still does now because that completely changed my life. Starting to work with you. So it was like in February of 2022, after we had that talk and everything, and we got a plan together, that I started hitting the gym consistently and started watching what I was eating because that was a huge thing. I
Mhm.
used to think, oh, I'm not eating very much at lunch or whatever, but I wasn't tracking calories. I wasn't tracking protein or anything. I was just like, oh, that's not too bad. I'll eat that anyways. And so you told me about calorie deficit. You told me about how you need to be in a calorie deficit or else you're not going to lose weight. You can eat healthy all you want to, but if you're eating more calories than what you're burning, it's not going to happen. And so you told me about that. You told me about the protein, and you gave me a workout regimen that I was able to follow. And so all of this stuff, this new knowledge about, oh, hey, like it's actually not that complicated to lose weight. You just got to eat right, you got to get your protein, you got to get your steps in, and you got to work out. Like you had me working out, I think it was like 3 times a week because of my schedule. And yet that still works. Some people say you have to be in the gym 5 hours or 5 times a week for 2 hours a day, which that's not the case. I mean, and me working with you is the proof of that. So between all this new knowledge and the regimen with you, and then my dad talking to me, because my dad and I, he knew like my entire life, like I've been trying to lose weight or I was overweight, whatever. And what happened was I was actually pretty upset one time because I was supposed to go on a date with a girl. We got it set up and everything, and then she rescheduled it on me one time, and she was like, "Oh, hey, actually tomorrow night or whatever is not going to work for me. I actually got called into work or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
So she said, "How about this day?" Right? And so I said, "Okay." So we made up a plan to meet at like Starbucks or something to just get coffee, meet each other. I get there, she's nowhere to be found, like nowhere at all. And so then I'm waiting there, I'm waiting there, I'm waiting there. So then eventually I send her a message. I'm like, "Hey, are you showing up? Like we had this plan." And then she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm not coming. I actually have to work tonight." I'm like, "Really? Like you couldn't have given me a heads up or anything, or said, hey, I mean, this ain't gonna work." Or I mean, don't. In my mind, if you really don't want to go with somebody, don't say you're gonna go with somebody or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, so I was pretty bummed about that, pretty irritated, and my dad could tell. And so he was like, don't let her or anyone else like make you feel terrible about yourself. Like I know you're gonna work hard. I know you're gonna do this finally. You're gonna be committed to it, because when you put your mind to things, you succeed at them. So he said, "Zach, how about this? We're going to Aruba in a couple months." It was going to be in the end of July of that year. So this is in like February of 2022 that I'm talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in July of 2022 that we're supposed to go to Aruba. And I'm at like 260 pounds at this point.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Zach, how about this? If you can lose the weight, enough weight, I will pay for you to go skydiving with me in Aruba." I was like, "What?" And he was like, "No, I promise. Like, I will pay for you." And I was like, "Okay, but I'd have to lose like 40 pounds to get there because their weight limit was 220 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, "Okay, well, I mean, if you think you're not going to be able to do it, then never mind." And I was like, No, I didn't say that." And so he's like, "Okay, then prove me wrong or prove me right that you can do it and I will pay for you." Yeah. So fast forward 5 months, 5.5 months or whatever. And I actually did end up losing enough weight to go skydiving with him in Aruba. So I got down to like 217. And I remember putting a picture of it in the Default Kings inner circle. And I was like, "Guys, like this is like the lowest I've been in years, like below 220 for the first time in probably over a decade." And I'm 24 and I was 23 at the time. So like since I was a teenager, like I hadn't been below that. So we go to Aruba, and we get there, and I'm ready to skydive. I'm ready to jump out of the plane, and we have it scheduled. And then the guy's like, "Oh, hey, by the way, our plane's broke, and we only have one plane.
Yeah.
So we'll try to get it ready for you. We'll try to get it fixed, but no guarantees." So we're there for like, I think 4 or 5 days. So we check like every day, and he's like, "Oh, the part still hasn't come in," because this was still kind of during the COVID, like supply chain issues and everything like that. And so the last day that we were there, we were actually in the airport to fly home, and we saw his plane outside the window flying. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like you fixed it like the day we're leaving."
Wow.
And so we didn't get to go skydiving then. But the day after we got back from Aruba, I actually had scheduled to go to skydiving in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And the weight limit there in Indy is 235 pounds, and Aruba is 220. So Indy, you can be 15 pounds heavier, but by that time I had already lost all the weight. It didn't really matter. And I was happy with it. It was fine because I weigh less than what I had in years, like I said. So we went skydiving in Indianapolis, and that was such an amazing experience. The thrill of that was unreal. And my dad asked me, he was like, aren't you scared to like jump out of this plane? Like, are you nervous? And I was like, not really, because I've worked so hard for this moment. I have worked for months for this moment. So I'm just ready to jump out of that airplane and enjoy myself. And that's exactly what I did. And it was amazing. I got to go with him. And then to top it off, cherry on top, we just went to Aruba again a few weeks ago, and I was finally able to actually skydive there. So it was a full circle moment, and uh, just seeing that come to pass and fruition was just amazing. Like that was a life changing experience for me, 100%.
That is amazing. I love how your weight loss journey follows like this full circle story. I remember you talking about how it was so important you not just to lose weight and just break that old identity of the kid who had been overweight his whole life and finally
Yep.
really step into the body that you knew you were capable of having. But
Oh,
the fact that, a little over a year and a half later, you're able to have two big experiences that are just tangible, real, undeniable evidence that, hey, I did the freaking work.
oh
That
yeah.
makes it so much sweeter, dude.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It was unreal. Like and like I said, or I've told other people, like when you do something like that, when you've been overweight your entire life,
Mhm.
and then you get to that point to where you can actually skydive because there's a weight limit and you actually reach the point that you're below the weight limit. I mean, that changes your mindset. Like, what can I not do at that point? Because I spent so many years of my life fat and overweight, but then with a little effort and commitment, now I'm able to do things I never would have been able to do before. And
Mhm.
man, like a whole mindset shift, like totally. It was
Wow.
crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. Have that mindset shift for you. I know that throughout a lot of people, as they're working through and changing their default actions and seeing the weight come off and realizing, okay, I've been consistent for this amount of time. I'm not experiencing these other blessings in my life that would
Yep.
have been possible without the weight loss. A lot of mindset shifts happen. So what I'm curious about is what are some of the mindset shifts that took place this time around that made it possible that you feel like never took place before?
Yeah. So one of them is just like healthy food doesn't have to be boring. I mean, that's something that was a mindset shift of me. Is before I used to think, um, if you're going to eat healthy, it's going to be like bland and not taste very good. Like it pretty much has to be chicken breast with like no flavoring whatsoever, or else you're going to gain the weight back. And that's not the case. Like if you honestly eat like good meals, like you've posted on your Twitter before, or X now, whatever it's called now. You posted like the burgers that you can eat still and still get all this protein and lose weight with, and people will look at that and be like, "Oh, there's no way you can eat that and lose weight," but you can.
Mhm.
And my mindset before used to be like, you cannot eat stuff like that at all. And so once I finally got to see you can have delicious food and it can be healthy for you and actually still help you lose weight. I mean, that was a huge thing for me
Mhm.
because I used to have a mindset like, oh man, if I start to lose weight or get healthy, then it's going to get boring. My life's going to get boring, and I'm not going to be able to enjoy anything. And
Mm.
that is far from the truth, 100%.
Yeah, that's great, man. That is very far from the truth. We're having a good time with the food up in default gigs, man. I'm glad you had that mindset shift. Dude, that's great. I love that. How do you feel like the weight loss impacted your life just outside of like the physical?
Yeah. So a huge thing was just mental, like clarity or confidence.
Mm.
Um, because when you're fat and overweight, or you're just like not the best version of yourself, you don't really want to hang around people, or if you do hang around people, you don't want to be like, not that you don't want to be involved, but you kind of want to be in the background of things. And now that I've lost weight, now that I've put the commitment in and worked hard at it, like I'm more than happy to go out with my friends, go play basketball, go do all these things that before I was kind of hesitant, like I don't really want to do that because I don't want eyes on me. I don't want people looking at me. I don't want people judging me, whatever that is. And so when you lose the weight, you get a confidence about you, and you stop caring. Not that you completely stop caring what other people think, but like it's not like your constant like worry all the time.
Mm.
Like there are times, like you can go in the gym and stuff, and you're like, man, like I still don't look like that guy, or I don't look like that person. But like, yeah, but just think about where you used to be. Like look at what you're at now. So the mindset, like just your confidence level was just, when you lose the weight, it just turns you almost into a completely different person, not just physically, but like mentally as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I love how um the confidence that you develop just internally starts to show up externally in social interactions, in how
Yep.
you feel when you're at the gym, your level of confidence when you're at the gym, and how you show up for other people, how you show up in relationships,
Right.
right? How you believe that, hey, anything is possible. I've had these acts of faith. I know we were talking about this earlier, but I've had these acts of faith consistently before seeing the big changes, before seeing the big blessings, and how you're able to apply that to other areas of life. So that's amazing, man. That is absolutely amazing. I love that. There's a few more things I kind of want to touch on here, just so we can serve the people. I think the next thing I want to touch on, man, is um, if there's somebody who is listening to this right now, whether they're had a very similar story or just had similar struggles, and they're resonating with where you've been, and they're
Yeah.
resonating with the blessings that you've seen, the dreams that you've had, the results that you've seen. Um, what advice would you give to them on why they should take action right now?
I mean, I would, one main thing I would say is just stay consistent. I mean, because I know how difficult it is, like 100%, like deep down, I know how difficult it is to want to quit if you don't see results after maybe a week or two.
Mhm.
But I promise you, if you stay consistent and committed to it, that those small wins stack up over time. And eventually you'll see progress that you never thought you could see before. And other people will see it probably before you. I mean, mostly that's what happens. But for real, stay consistent. And I promise you that you'll see the results if you stick with eating better, if you stick with working out, if you stick with getting 8 to 10,000 steps a day. I mean, it doesn't seem like it'll add up, but I promise you it will. And don't let your weight loss like consume your entire life. I did have a problem with that. Like I was like it was constantly on my mind that I almost got scared to gain weight back because I've heard my entire life that so many people lose weight and then they'll gain it all back. So I actually got to a point that I wasn't eating very much at all. Like I was eating like, I don't know, maybe 500, 800 calories a day, maybe 1,000. And because I was just like scared to go back to where I was, like I was scared to go back to being the fat kid and being overweight. I was like, I don't want to go back there. And my dad actually had a talk with me. He was like, man, like you can act like if you see your abs one day, you'll be happy and stuff. But I'm telling you right now, with how you're living, like you don't seem like you're happy. And the reason that was the case is because I was making weight loss like pretty much an idol in my life.
Yeah,
Like if I didn't get down to this certain amount, then I'm a failure and my life's like not where it should be. And if you're not always going to lose 5 pounds a week. It's not going to happen. And that's not healthy for that to happen. I mean, initially when you start, it might, but like the smaller you get, I mean, it's not always going to happen. And I just, I don't know, I just got down to a place to where I was like, not wanting to eat anything because I thought I would gain it all back. But now I'm a lot better than I was, praise God. Eating a lot more protein now, eating calories I should be eating. And I'm doing it the right way this time. I mean, I lost the weight before. Most of it was the right way, but I mean, some of it was me just like I said, like not eating correctly and stuff, or not eating very much. But now, I mean, I'm being super intentional with eating like the correct stuff, eating a lot of protein, getting steps in, and making sure my workouts are like actually workouts and they're not just me going to the gym just to go to the gym. But if you stay consistent and if you don't make it an idol in your life, then I promise you'll get to a place that you're happy and you're like, man, like there's nothing that I can't accomplish if I stick with stuff like this.
that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing all that. Just words of wisdom from somebody who's been through the ringer in terms of a weight loss journey, right? Been
Yeah.
up and down and up and down and up and down and seeing the extremes. And now finally find that consistency, finding that not just actual results on the scale, results in the mirror, which are
Yep.
the tangible physical
Yep.
results of the internal work that you do, but still having that internal consistency, that self-confidence, right? And that healthy
Yep.
relationship with food.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And I do have a few more minutes here. So I'd love to open up this discussion with you too, for anyone else who's still listening, because you're another young man who I really respect, and you're another young man of faith. And I think that so many guys, and you're talking about this idea of like making weight loss your idol, right?
Yeah.
At a certain point, and how that creates a destructive pattern. And how maybe even if you find your value or your worth in what the number on the scale says, how
Mhm.
that can become detrimental
Yep.
How, I think it's more important for guys not to get their value and find their identity in the number on the scale, but have their identity, be the person who they become
Yeah.
as a result of the
Yep.
work that they do to become that person, right? It's not about the number on the scale. So I'm curious in your journey, like how have you seen faith play into your health journey and honoring your body and your weight loss journey? How have you seen faith play into this?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the Bible says like our bodies have been bought at a price, so honor God with them. Um, so I mean that verse is actually even up on my gym on the wall. And so just that verse, I mean, it's something to not take lightly. Like our body's a temple and God gave us one. And so just trying to be intentional, like if you want to really fulfill your calling that God has on your life and for the longest amount of time possible, then you got to take care of the vessel that he gave you, which is our bodies and our temple. I mean, you can feed it with crap and live still 50, 60 years, but how are you going to be feeling like mentally and everything? And that has a huge impact on how you feel spiritually too. Because if you're mentally in a bad, foggy place or physically, then like you're spiritually gonna maybe start being like, God, why is my life doing this? Why have I developed, knee problems or hip problems or whatever it is? And then you start blaming God, like, God, why aren't you healing me or whatever? And it's like, if you would have taken care of your body before, then maybe it wouldn't be breaking down like it is now. And so when I see that verse about your body's been paid at a price, so honor God with them, like that's like it speaks a lot to me now. And something like I said before about weight loss being an idol. Um, so I went on a missions trip uh, to Georgia. I think it was it was the beginning of June this year.
Yeah.
So the country of Georgia, not the state. So over in Europe. And while I was over there, it was for a young adults conference.
Mhm.
While I was over there, I just felt like God was like, I need you to put me first over everything, over relationships, trying to find a girlfriend,
Mhm.
over trying to be promoted, over if you're dealing with porn or whatever,
Mhm.
put me over that. And then weight loss, fitness, put me over that
Yeah.
because I am better than all that stuff. And obviously that stuff is good to like get rid of that crap and to be in shape and everything. But if your mind is 100% on that, then it's not on me. Is basically what I felt like God was saying. Is like if you're constantly putting all your effort and everything into working out and losing weight and stuff, how much effort are you putting into reading the Word, reading the Bible, praying? Like how much effort are you spending over here?
Mhm.
And so for anyone that's listening to this, I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight, but just don't let it become your God pretty much. Like keep God first and trust him to give you the grace to go through the hard times, to give you the grace and strength to get through the workouts, to get through the days that you're like, I really don't want to go to the gym today, but
Mhm.
you know what? Who cares? Jesus carried a cross for who knows how long. And I'm sure he really didn't want to carry that either with how heavy he was and everything after he'd been whipped and beaten and everything. So just say, God, like, give me the grace and strength that Jesus had when he was carrying his cross. Let me pick up my cross of obesity and everything and carry that to the gym and
Mhm.
get rid of it. Like literally get rid of it. So for real, just
Yeah.
believe God for the grace, man.
Man, that's powerful, bro. That's really powerful. I think that's a really great message to kind of tie this up on. And I think that's a really great kind of just piece of wisdom for anyone to take. And I know most of the guys that come through Default Kings are Christians as well. So that's really
Mhm.
great. But even for the guys who aren't Christians, I think what Zach is saying, the idea of being so obsessed with the tangible that you almost make that your idol. You almost make the number on the scale what you're bowing down and
Yep.
worshiping. And I think that creates almost an obsessive process sometimes where if that is the sole purpose for everything, if you miss the real point, right? The real point isn't the number on the scale. It's who you become, it's who you are, it's your
Yep.
identity. And the health and the number on the scale supports who you're really called to be, right? But I've seen guys get so obsessed with that number on the scale and identify with that number on the scale so heavily that if it does bounce back up, which it will, because this is not a linear journey, it fluctuates and gets down
Mhm.
over time.
Yep.
Or if they slip up for a weekend or whatever happens, if they fall off the wagon for a little bit and they fall into this cycle of just shame and self pity and self doubt, and then they throw in the towel again, right? And I think if more guys understood that this is as much of a transformation internally, as much of a transformation spiritually as it
Yep.
is physically. And it's
Right.
actually internal transformation that creates the external results. I think a lot of guys would have a lot more long lasting, consistent success like
Yep.
you. So I appreciate you sharing that, brother.
Absolutely.
Dude, awesome having you here. And thank you for sharing your story, inspiring
For sure.
anyone else who resonates with this and sharing a lot of great advice too, man. Appreciate you massively.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for reaching out and inviting me to do this. I mean, it means a lot that you would, and like I said, that you still stay in contact with me after all this time, with all the clients and stuff that you have. I mean, it means a ton to me. Shows you're the real deal and shows that you really care about the people that you work with. So
Appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Glory to God, brother.
That's
And
all.